Is there a safety in numbers? The EU is a bloc. It accounts for a third of the world's trade. The UK is trying to go it alone, create individual deals with China, with the likes of the US. There's an irony that May gives a speech when all this is going on.
Well, it's not an irony. It's a proof point that Brexit's stupid. And so I'm using that word a lot today, and I shouldn't. That Brexit is misguided.
Is there safety in numbers, given Trump's stance? He's not going to go to...
There's safety in numbers in two senses.
Yes.
There's safety in numbers that you want to be big enough that people have to pay attention to you to get access to your markets. And in the UK's case, being part of the EU was critical, not only because you're part of a bigger entity, but because it meant that people wanted to be in the UK as a platform into the EU. They didn't have to pay extra to meet UK standards different from EU standards and so on. But the other point, safety in numbers, is, again, going back to the Trump issue, and where I think Theresa May would want to do the right thing, is to play by the multilateral rules. That if you try to cut your own deals and do everything bilaterally, you end up cutting yourself out, which the U.S. is on a path potentially to do. I have an article in the Current Foreign Affairs talking about the U.S. undercutting its world role, cutting deals bilaterally. And the UK, if it's going to backfire in the US, it sure as hell would backfire in the UK.
Adam, you know, Theresa May laid out 5 principles, but again, nothing very concrete. The EU has given a concrete blueprint. What happens? I mean, does the EU's blueprint get implemented just by default because the UK can't come up with any kind of real solution? I mean, right now, Theresa May is saying there won't be a customs border or any kind of border on the Irish Sea or around Northern Ireland, and yet there's no going forward without some kind of border somewhere.
You're absolutely right, Vonnie. I mean, the principles that Prime Minister May enunciated today, I've read through the speech, are fine as far as they go, and they're actually more realistic and admit more trade-offs than some of the previous discussions by her government. But you're absolutely right. There are concrete issues that have to be settled. The Northern Ireland border is the foremost among them. If you do not leave Northern Ireland in a customs union with the rest of the EU, you will be creating a border there where the peace there is partially founded on not having a hard border there. Full stop, okay? And then additionally, there's the issue of free movement of labor. And again, that's non-negotiable for the EU. So if the UK wants out from that, then it's not as impossible to work around as the Northern Ireland border, but it means there are certain kinds of relationships the UK simply cannot have with the EU. These are realities. And finally, your point is one of the truisms of public policy. What you want to do is be the person who's drafting what's at the meeting. And the UK used to be the one that drafted what was at the meetings to a large extent. Sir Nick McPherson, who used to be the Treasury Permanent Undersecretary, has commented on this today. You have power, intellectual power, by doing that. And the EU and Barnier and all that team, to their credit, are writing stuff down, and you may not love it, but it's actually reasonable, responsible stuff. Until the UK writes something, you got a problem.